Alright, so today we're going to look at part 3 of your global exam, which is the Enduring Issues essay. So we're going to read through all of these documents, and your job is to pull information from these documents, and then identify an enduring issue raised by these this set of documents that comes up over and over again in these documents, and then you need to argue why it's significant and how it has endured over time. Okay, so you need to identify an enduring issue based on historically accurate interpretation of at least 3 documents, so that shows up in at least 3 of those documents. Define the issue, kind of tell me about this enduring issue, and show me how it's significant during the time period of that document and also today. So that may seem a little overwhelming. We're going to read through each of these independently, but I want you to remember that in my Google Classroom, right, Mrs. Weston's 9th graders, right at the very top, you'll see a material that says Enduring Issues Essay Resources. This is something that you can use every single time. Okay? There is a list, a pretty easy to understand list of what these different enduring issues are. So conflict, desire for power, we see these things come up all the time. All right, so that's something that you should have open in a different tab. Another thing that you should always have is an organizer. It can be the one that I have here. You can make a copy of this one and type onto this one as you go. You can make yourself one on a piece of paper or print this out. It's up to you. But either way, you need to have this graphic organizer in your possession or a graphic organizer in your possession in order to get through this. So you'll be writing down important information that you see in the document, and then jotting down any enduring issues that you see. And as you start off with them, you're not going to see a pattern yet because you haven't read the other ones. But I want you to write down every single enduring issue that you see. So if you see conflict come up, write it down. If you see effects of globalization or like being connected to other countries there, write it down. I want you to have just like bullet points. So I might just write conflict, human impact on the environment. And as you go, you'll see that the same issues keep coming up, right? This one might have conflict in it too, so might this one. And you'll see them start coming up, and that's when you narrow it down to what you're going to do for your essay, okay? So that's your job as you listen to this, right? Feel free to pause, rewind, whatever you need to do to best understand the material. All right, so let's look at document 1. So I always make sure to look at the source of the document first. So this is from something called China, so we know what we're dealing with in terms of the place, okay? And it seems to be kind of like a textbook or something. All right, so document 1. The records of the Grand Historian Sima Qian. I'm going to go with Qian. That's just how we're going to go. The Records of the Grand Historian is a comprehensive history of ancient China that covers a 2,500-year period from the age of the legendary Yellow Emperor to the reign of the Emperor Wu of the Han Dynasty in the 2nd century BCE. The Records of the Grand Historian was finished in 109 BCE in China by the Han Dynasty official Sima Qian. Among the most infamous acts of the emperor Shi Huangdi that were recorded in the records of the Grand Historian were the burning of the books, ordered in 213 BCE, and the execution of scholars, ordered in 212. The following excerpt tells the story of the 213 book burning edict, and in the excerpt, Li Si speaks in response to a scholar who challenged Shi Huangdi. So when we're talking about a scholar, that's someone who studies, is very educated, and they might be educated on a topic like government. Li Si discussed the dangers of scholars studying old ideas. Li Si was a strong supporter of legalism and served as the Grand Counselor for the Emperor Shi Huangdi. So Li Si was very much against scholars. Okay, so let's talk about this really quick. So we have the burning of the books that's happening here. So the Emperor has ordered that all the books, the educational books that you might use to get some information written by these scholars, to be burned and to get rid of it. He's also ordered the execution of scholars. So these educated people will be killed because of how they're speaking out against the government. All right, so we have Li Si, who is in agreement with the government, thinks that these books should be burned and these people should be killed. And we're going to read what he says. He says, "Now these scholars learn only from the old, not from the new, and use their learning to oppose our rule and confuse the black-headed people or the common people. Your Majesty has conquered the whole world. Yet these opinionated scholars get together to slander the laws and judge each new decree according to their own school of thought, opposing it secretly in their hearts while discussing it openly in the streets. They brag to the sovereign ruler to win fame, put forward strange arguments to gain distinction or importance, and incite the mob to spread rumors. If this is not prohibited or banned, the sovereign's prestige will suffer and factions or divisions will be formed among his subjects. Far better put a stop to it. I humbly propose that all records but those of the Qin be burned. If anyone who is not a court scholar dares to keep the ancient songs, historical records, or writings of 100 schools, these should be confiscated, taken, and burned by the provincial governor and army commander. Those who are in conversion dare to quote the old songs and records shall be publicly executed. Chinese tradition claims that 460 rebellious Confucian scholars were burned alive in a common grave, and many others were stoned to death. Those who use old precedents to oppose the new order should have their families wiped out, and officers who know of such cases but fail to report them shall be punished in the same way." So he's saying that if people are still going to be using these old books, listening to these scholars, singing these ancient songs or using these historical records, they should be killed, their families should be killed, anyone who knew about it should be killed. If 30 days after issuing the order of the owners of these books still have not destroyed them yet, they should have their face tattooed and be condemned to hard labor at the Great Wall. The only books which need not be destroyed are those dealing with medicine, divination, or the practice of looking into the future, and agriculture. Those who want to study the law can learn it from the officers. You can learn it from the government. Okay? So if you go against the government, you have these books, you deserve to be killed, and your family deserves to be killed. So I want you to write down a couple of notes on your organizer. Okay, so what's some important information that you can pull out of this document? And then what are some enduring issues that you see constantly coming up in this document? Okay, so pause to be able to do that. I'm going to move on to the next document. So document 2 is a system of Roman roads. Okay, so we've got kind of a piece of the Roman Empire, and it says it's located in modern-day Spain. And all of these orange lines are the roads, right, over land, so we're using, horses or whatever to get through them, that they had created to connect all these different cities. It says, the map above is the Roman road system in one section of the empire located in modern-day Spain. The Romans considered a well-organized and efficient transportation system a basic element of proper administration. It was an indispensable element in creating and maintaining the Roman state. They could not have done it without these roads. The earliest highways were constructed for the use of the military, and their economic benefit for civilians was a later byproduct and not the main reason for their creation. So they created it to use for the military, but then they found out that it was actually really helpful for trade. The military nature of the roads continued to be essential as Romans expanded into territory outside Italy. So they were able to kind of march their troops outside of Italy using these roads. Okay, so I want you to write down some important information that you picked out from document 2, and then tell me what enduring issues you see coming up here. Okay, remember they were used for the military first, but they ended up being used for trade. They helped to connect the Roman Empire to other places. They helped to connect the Roman Empire cities to other cities in the Roman Empire. So what enduring issues do you see there? Write as many as you see. Document 3. So Genghis Khan, 1162 to 1227, was the ruler of the Mongols, a group of people from Central Asia who used superior military techniques to conquer most of Asia, establishing the largest land empire that has ever existed, the Mongolian Empire. Okay? And we have a little timeline here. Okay, so it goes through some of the events in the during Genghis Khan's time. So in 1206, Temujin receives the title Genghis Khan, so he will forever be known as Genghis Khan, the universal ruler. And then Genghis Khan leads his armies against the Jin dynasty of northern China. You have the execution of Mongol envoys set in motion by the first Mongol westward thrust. So the first kind of group of Mongol people start to set out into the area, and they're pushing westward to try to build their empire. As part of building their empire, the Mongols wage war in Central Asia. You have Genghis Khan's death. Then you have when the Mongols conquer the Jin dynasty in northern China. The Mongols invade Korea, beginning of the Mongol invasion of Europe. And the Mongol Song Dynasty War begins. The Mongols sack the city of Kiev in Russia, so we see them moving to China, Russia. Then we have Mongke elected as the Great Khan. First Mongol invasion of Vietnam. Mongols defeat the Abbasid Caliphate by taking over Baghdad, so they're everywhere. They're in the Middle East, they're in Asia. Death of Mongke. Mongol armies leave Eastern Europe. They're in Eastern Europe. Kublai Khan becomes the Great Khan. The establishment of the Yuan dynasty by Kublai Khan. The first Mongol invasion of Japan fails. And the fall of the Song dynasty to the Yuan dynasty. Kublai Khan dies. Timur becomes the successor of the Yuan dynasty, and the Yuan dynasty is overthrown by the Ming dynasty. Okay, so you see a lot of their efforts to kind of build their empire, and a lot of that is them waging war, taking over cities, right? And they end up building the largest land empire ever created in this kind of short time period. It wasn't perfect. They lost some of these things, but they definitely created an empire here. So you might want to look at some enduring issues related to empires, colonies, that sort of thing. So make sure you write any important information you spotted, even just like a summary of the document, and any enduring issues that you have. Pause to do that. All right, document 4. So this says some characteristics of an autocrat. An autocrat is a ruler who has absolute power. They have all the power in the land. Autocrats have existed in different regions throughout history. So you have the ruler, and it says, uses armies to expand or consolidate borders under the ruler's control, limits or controls the power of nobles, makes the laws and dispenses justice, controls religious authorities, so the church, circumvents, ignores, or uses assemblies to approve or rubber stamp the ruler's initiatives. So it basically does everything they can to just make their laws or their ideas the law, just kind of ignoring what's going on with other people. Kind of ignoring what the rule is there. So this shows you things that autocrats, absolute rulers, do. Okay. So I want you to take some notes on this. Next to document 4. What's the summary of this? What are some things you're noticing? And tell me some enduring issues that you see. And then we have document 5. So document 5 is an image, and it says 1938, the Nazi SS in a parade. Okay, so you see, it says in the 1930s and 1940s, a group called the Nazis took control of Germany. They were led by a man named Adolf Hitler. An important tool of Nazi terror and control was the protective squad, the Schutzstaffel, or the SS. The SS began as a special guard for Hitler and other important Nazi party leaders. In 1934, the SS became the private army of the Nazi Party. They used cruel methods throughout Germany to identify, arrest, and murder political opponents. So anyone who spoke out against the government was murdered. They sought to eliminate all opposition. They would sometimes go door to door looking for Hitler's enemies or anyone who'd ever spoken against Hitler. Camps were set up all over Germany in abandoned warehouses where political opponents were held and persecuted. Okay? So they were picking out any enemies of Hitler that they could find. And this is much more recent than some of the other ones we had talked about. It's only in 1938. So, now's your time. Get some important information down. What did you notice? What's a summary? Anything you can write here. And what are some enduring issues that you're seeing? Okay? So take some time to do that. Pause the video. Alright, so once you have all this down, you should start to see a pattern in your enduring issues. You should start to see that the same one keeps coming up over and over again, something like that. Okay, so I'm just taking a peek at my enduring issues. I'm noticing that there's a lot of power struggles going on, especially absolute power. I'm seeing some human rights violations. Okay, so people are treated unfairly. I'm seeing the impact of empire building in some of these places, not all of them. Okay. So now is your time to look through and identify an enduring issue that shows up in at least 3 documents, and it should be the one that you understand the most. That is going to be your enduring issue that you are going to use for the entire essay. Okay, and you're going to use at least those 3 documents. So if it were me, I might sit there and be like, okay, the same one comes up in 1, 2, and 4, so I'm going to highlight 1, 2, and 4 just so I know. Then what you're going to do, and I've provided an outline for you down here, is you're going to create your introduction. Okay. So the first sentence can just be copied right from the prompt. Right here, it says, an enduring issue is a challenge or problem that's been debated or discussed over time. It is one that many societies have attempted to address with varying degrees of success. That is right in the prompt that you have. Right here, okay? You can just copy that down. Once you get that copied down, you can say one example of an enduring issue is, and the one enduring issue that you're picking for the whole thing. Okay, so let's just say, because this isn't one that comes up, let's say it's human impact on the environment. Okay? Then I would say human impact on the environment is when humans have, do things that create changes to the environment around them. I've explained what the issue is. Then you're going to name your enduring issue again, and it's say, human impact on the environment is a significant issue because it changes how people live in their land. That's why it's important, I think. As shown in 18th century England, 20th century Africa, 21st century United States. Okay, all those place and time periods. If you're doing yours, you might say, as shown during the Mongol Empire, as shown during Nazi Germany, as shown during, depends on the document you have. Okay, and then that's your introduction. You get that all into one paragraph, that's your introduction. You're then going to go through and give me a little bit of each document. So if you chose document 1, give me like a super brief summary of that document, and then show me how that enduring issue, whatever it is, shows up in that document. All right, So this is something that you're going to start to work on, and we can continue to look at it when I see you later. But I expect you guys to get started on this on your own. All right?